I swear my phone it hates me. So the rest of the books I'm going to show, I did get at Books A Million today. I also, the only thing I got that wasn't a book was a bookmark, and also this Slytherin Harry Potter cup. I love it because it's all sparkly. You put tea in it and stuff. I don't drink coffee. I can't. It's not good for my stomach. But tea and water, stuff like that. I love sparkly things, so that was really cool to see. And I love the Slytherin house. I know. Evil. Anyway. This is the bookmark I got. It's a steampunk cat. It's 3D, but it's kind of hard to tell on the camera. But it's steampunk kitty. Looks like one of my kitties, too. So. Oh, okay. I guess I could put this cord on the ground. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and start. I get off again from where I left off. So, Pitbull Heroes is a book I got. 49 Underdogs with Resilience and Heart by Greg Murray. My own dog, my big dog, is a pit bull. So, I love this book. Let's see. Dedicated to all the animals in shelters looking for their forever humans. More than 4,000 of them are euthanized daily in the U.S. alone. Help bring that number down by adopting, fostering, volunteering, donating, advocating, and educating. It's all about pit bulls, so let's see. Forward, a love letter to good dogs and their defenders. I met Scarlett at the pound in Gary, Indiana. She looked like a dull brown sack with nothing but bones inside. She didn't have the strength to climb into my car. So not knowing the first thing about this sorry-looking dog, I just sprung. I scooped her up and arranged her on the passenger seat. As I pulled out of the potholed parking lot, I handed her a big, meaty treat. Holding it in her teeth, she glanced at me for a long moment. Then, no kidding, she looked back at the dilapidating building and growled. Good riddance, after a trip to the vet, where she was diagnosed with severe malnutrition and an incurable type of anemia. I brought her home to my condo on the south side of Chicago, which I shared with my partner, Matt, our tough little cat, Sushi, and our beloved resident pit bull, Beatrice. For days, Scarlett recuperated in our guest room, lying beside me as I wrote my doctoral dissertation in social work. Her pressure sores began to heal, she steadily gained weight, and she learned that she was safe, perhaps for the first time in her life. She became friends with Beatrice, who showed her how civilization worked. You potty outside, you play with this ropey rope, you watch movies on the sofa, and the human people feed you and make a big deal about how cute you are. Scarlett, like so many of the pit bulls we fostered through Chicagoland bully breed rescue, had what seemed an almost supernatural sensitivity to humans' feelings. Once, as Scarlett slept on her velveteen dog bed in the corner of the living room, my sister-in-law began to cry. To our surprise, this apparently sleeping, terminally ill dog, with no reason at all to trust humans, leapt onto the sofa beside Mary and gently licked her tears away. As Scarlett's anemia inevitably worsened, Beatrice donated blood and stuck by her tired friend. But in the end, the best we could give her was 4 months of good life, 4 months that she so totally deserved. Being a part of what I've begun to call the Pitbull movement can break your heart. We have seen the acts of abuse and neglect that haunt our dreams. Being a part of this movement means looking squarely at the profound, seemingly endless injustice experienced by a group of dogs that many Americans have written off as monsters. So, I'm not going to keep reading the rest of this because it's a long forward. But it has the names of dogs, and I guess it tells us their story about what happened to them and something amazing they did or was good about them. The fact they were a good dog. Let's see. By the end of the 6-month pilot program, Apollo and Jamie had assisted in finding more than $300,000 in cash and several pounds of narcotics. So I guess these would be drug dogs. So that's pretty cool. Give people a different view of Pitties. This dog reminds me of Knuckles, who I know was put down on Friday. But I gotta say, he was miserable. He was covered in hives, and there was nothing powerful enough to treat his allergy. And he was just... I can't imagine being happy like that. I mean, I have issues where my whole body itches all over. And I'm sure it wasn't anywhere near as severe as him, considering the way he looked. And I just can't imagine being happy that way. I mean, I go crazy just with the itch around my body that I have. You know, let alone what he does, scratching himself raw. And knowing there's nothing he can do about it, it's pretty sad. Then I'm trying to read more classic books. So I got Aesop's Fables and The Inferno. I had found that these books were the same price each as the Books and Noble publishing brand of classic novels. So I thought, you know, these look nicer. They are nicer. It's like the same price. I'm going with these. But if you did buy 5 or more, then the company's brand, the Books A Million publishing brand, would be the best way to go, because then they discount it. They make it $10 each, so. But only when you buy 5 or more, which I don't intend to do all at once like that. Or maybe next time, who knows. I think reading classic novels is important for being well-read, sophisticated, and intelligent. I'm not saying anyone has to agree with me on that, but that's just how I feel. And so I'm trying to read more of those. Like, it's kind of like people of my age group, we've heard of Dante's Inferno. I've never heard of this one, to be quite really honest, but I've heard of many of the phrases being used on the cover that apparently are in the book. So there's that. I've never read Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, or Moby Dick, but I can tell you all about them that I know from it being retold all the time and talked about, but I've never actually read the books. And I feel like that sucks. When I was younger, I didn't really understand how reading classic novels helped intelligence. It seemed like ridiculous to me. It's like, well, I mean, what about new books? Are they not good for my intelligence? And the kind of thing I realized is, as sad as this is to say, and it's not really entirely sad because this book is cute, and the cat book is cute, but books today aren't not usually as sophisticated and intelligent as they used to be, which I think says something about the direction our world is heading. I think we all need to, and I think that's like really important for people to start working harder to the intelligence. You know, I feel like it used to be important to be well-read, to be sophisticated. I mean, yeah, there were some people who they lived to just do their jobs and go home, and that was a sad life of the peasants. But it was always still unanimously agreed about the importance of education, intelligence, and studying. And yet today, you know, we learn in schools today all about, you know, the basics of history and basics of all these things, but we don't read these books. We don't know what the Renaissance was really like. We don't really get to read that much. We only read about certain people, you know. We don't really get to read about how people dressed, how people acted, and I think all that's the most important part. Plus, I don't think it helps when teachers tell kids what this such and such, who such and such was, what this such and such was like, which is usually how school goes, you know, a teacher talking to you. But I feel like that doesn't really help. I feel like kids aren't going to know it for themselves. They're still just hearing it from the mouth of their teacher, or from a little social study book that sums everything up in like a few sentences, right? I think it's important to read the books ourselves. And I do hope that one day there'll be more well-educated books written. I did find a few today that were pretty enlightening, written in modern times, but they were very rare, very few. Unfortunately, most books seem to be reduced in intelligence, and I think that really sucks. I mean, yeah, there's certain linguistic issues that like we can't all talk like we're from Shakespeare, because that's just not realistic. That's just being a poser, you know. But I still think we should at least up our game in writing. Of course, I'm probably not going to be the one publishing those books, so I guess I shouldn't talk. I also got the Shakespeare collection. Complete Shakespeare. Sherlock Holmes Shakespeare. I said Shakespeare, why? The complete Sherlock Holmes collection of books. Now, these books, I could find, let's see. This one right here, let me see. This one and this one right here. So these 3 books they had in different brands, different publishings, including the classic publishings and of Books a Million's own publishing. But they didn't have this one, or this one, and they would be $15 each, right? And so it was like, this whole collection usually costs $50, was on sale, so it was $25. So that's pretty great. So I got, to buy 2 of these, of the 2 of the 3 books they had, individually, it would have cost $30. This was $25 for all the books that come with the Sherlock Holmes series. That was obviously a much better deal. I've always been intrigued by Sherlock Holmes and intrigued by his supposedly autistic sort of mannerisms. And so, wanted to read it for myself, just like I'm trying to do with all classic novels. This is just kind of where it begins. Although I did read one already. Classic novel, it was The Great Gatsby. I read that. I did not like it because I felt like it wasn't well written. I felt like the author was kind of all over the place. There's so many side stories, and it was just like so hard to. It's like, why did you need all those side stories that literally had no connection to the story? I feel like this guy thought so high and mighty of himself, and he wasn't. It's also because I kind of already knew some bad facts about the author, so I wasn't exactly reading this book excitingly, but just that, it's a classic book, so might as well get it over with. But that the author, for those who don't know, drove his own wife insane. He would cheat on her, for example, and she'd have his other woman sitting at the same dinner table with them out in public. And openly be flirting with that woman. He knew it was driving his wife crazy. He's cheating on her right in front of her. She reached over the table. This was not the first attempt of him trying to drive her crazy. He would do things like trip her and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. You need to look where you're going." Stuff like that, trying to make her feel like she was crazy. And he succeeded. And she ended up in an insane asylum where she died during a fire, because she was on too many drugs to be able to escape. So unlike all the other people who escaped, she was left burned to death. His wife was off. People who worked at that insane asylum had often said whenever she was released, she seemed fine when she left. She seemed fine, totally normal. And then right after she's with her husband again, she would just fall apart. She would go insane again. And her husband was very well known to be a bully. And literally that was like his life's pleasure, was driving his wife insane. And it's really sad because his book, The Great Gatsby, is actually supposed to be inspired by his wife. It's like you with your wife, you think she's so amazing, and yet you treat her like garbage and try to make her think she's crazy. It's like, I have to honestly say that I know other men, I'm not going to point names or say anything like that have done this to their wives. Calling them crazy, trying to make them feel crazy for things that are normal, and for things that didn't even happen. And it's like, why is that always the go-to? I don't get it. Sick. That woman had to die doped up. She wasn't even really crazy. She just had a horrible husband, and she had to die because of that. It's just horrible. she should have just left him. But then again, I guess things weren't so easy back then. Back in the Flapper Girl days. So that's one of the books that I've read. I've read, I think, another book. I can't remember what it was, but it was also a classic book. But I'll have to think of it later. I remember when I was a kid, I read Balto. It's not really much of a classic, but it's kind of a classic book. Except the one I read was like a children's version. I don't know if there is a different version. But I know the story of Balto. Oh, I got this book the other day. I should show off. I got this at Walmart. 52 Devotions for Cat Ladies. And yes, it's a Christian book. It talks about, let's see. I wonder if it's written by the same woman that wrote that other book. Huh. Anyway. The Lord came and stood calling as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, speak, for your servants here. 1 Samuel 3:10, sorry. Vision sucks. The minute I answered the phone, I knew the customer was annoyed. He was so angry, I was surprised smoke wasn't coming through the receiver. Look, lady, I've left 2 or 3 messages on your answering machine and asked someone to call me back. Don't you want my business? Several customers had called recently saying they'd left messages and nobody had returned their calls. I was puzzled. Maybe our machine was malfunctioning, or perhaps our sons had listened to the messages without saving them. It remained a mystery until one day when I was polishing the furniture in the office, I heard a thud and turned around to see that our cat had jumped onto my husband's desk. She stood there, her tail swishing back and forth like a symphony conductor's wand. Then she inched across the desk, her eyes fixed on the flashing red light on the answering machine. I watched as she extended a paw and pushed the play button next to the flashing light. She waited until my recorded greeting completed, then as the messages began playing, she sprawled on the desk and listened to them. Once they ended, she jumped up and stalked from the room. I giggled as I imagined the office door sign, no cats allowed during business hours. I was ready the next time an irate customer phoned. Sir, I'm sorry, the cat listened to your message and she must not have hit the save button. I wonder how many times God has sent us a message to us, and we let distractions in our life keep us from hearing his voice. Like young Samuel in the Bible, we should be waiting whenever God speaks to us. What if, just like our cat secretary, we'd listen, soaking in every word until God completes the message he wants us to hear? It would be such a shame to have the God of the universe stop by to tell us something, and we miss out on the wise counsel and words of love he has for us. Father, sometimes I don't listen to your messages in the way that I should. Life and busyness get in the way. Give me ears that hear and a spirit that's attuned to you. Help me hear your gentle whispers and to take your messages to heart. You are such a big God, and it still boggles my mind that you want to talk to me. Talk to me, remind me of what's really important each day, and help me to share your messages of hope, grace, mercy, and love with those who need to hear them. Pause to think. What can young Samuel in the Bible teach us about listening for God's voice? Did you know cats have over 20 muscles that control their ears? And so it keeps going with devotionals like that. I also got this thing I actually ordered. Oh, there's gonna be a little avalanche. Saw it coming. Okay. A new Bible. It's a coloring Bible because I like those ideas. I like to color. So I ordered this on Amazon because I didn't like the ones they had in stores. So, little places to color in. I think there's also supposed to be some full color pages. I might be wrong on that. I'm not seeing any. I might be thinking, oh, here they are. They're way back here. Or at least there's one back here. There's another example of those. You can also do some of your own here, in the blank spots. You can just create your own little drawings. That's cute. I don't know where it is. Oh, here they are. There's one. So, all sorts of cool things to do. And I got colored pencils that fell that I need to go pick up. So, I hope, for those who watch this whole video, thank you. And I gotta go clean up the little avalanche mess. So, adios.